If I had it. So I'm leaving out a few chapters because I don't. There's like a bunch of things I have to work on, and I don't want to give away a kind of a really main section of the book yet, especially since it's not even near finished. But there's a chapter on the 40th page. It's called Chapter the 8th, The Engineer. So, I just love writing in notebooks like this. We get to get a little familiar with Zayed. He's if anybody remembers, or if anybody's here, the friend of Tomas, the more silent type dark guy with the black hair and the very, reserved character. So I'm going to describe him a little bit. It's called Chapter the 8th, The Engineer. I wonder if the music maybe take it down a little bit. There we go. Zayed was seated in his office behind an extravagantly sized table of finely polished walnut that was scattered with long sheets of paper, some rolled up, others flattened, and the remaining half opened. He had been engaged the most of that morning with the pen, paper, and various rulers and compasses directly before him, but currently his head was supported. One moment, please. I don't even have my chat open. Where's my chat? Come back. Oh, hi, Dart. I'm just doing a little reading night here from my writing. How's it going? Hope all's well. So, I'm going to go back to it. He's sitting with his long sheets of paper, some rolled up, others flattened, and the remaining half opened. He had been engaged most of that morning with the pen, paper, and various rulers and compasses directly before him, but currently, his head, supported with the fingers that were driven into the voluminous mass of black hair, he was deep in thought. My chat windows. Yeah, I was just finishing some Tomb Raider 4 play and Tomb Raider 4 gaming, and I reached Alexandria, and I'm just winding down here a little bit. Finally, the volume still may be a little loud. Okay. Finally, tiring of his thought process not making any progress, he stood up. Sorry, there's these classical music set. Finally, tiring of his thought process not making any progress, he stood up, stretched, took a turn around the room, and returned to his place when he opened a shelf of the table to withdraw a small silver lighter. Sorry, somebody came in. Oh, that's nice, Dart. What are you playing? Okay. Dum, 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 dum. Anything fun? V Rising, perhaps? Or Tomb Raider? Finally, tiring of his thought process not making any progress, he stood up, stretched, took a turn around the room, and returned to his place, where he opened a shelf shelf of he opened a shelf of the table to withdraw a small silver lighter that had the first letter of his name engraved upon it in a dark shade of purple, and which was a birthday gift from Thomas. That's his best friend. Oh, Peek. Yeah, that's fun. Hey, I haven't heard of... Are you playing with Quirky by any chance? I haven't seen her in a little while. I hope she's all good. Probably busy. I know she played Peek for a while. So he took out this tiny little lighter from his drawer. He's in his office, Zayed, and he lit it. He's going to light it. And it's pretty special to him because he got it from Thomas. I just solo now? Nice. I don't know what... Oh, I like you can play that solo. I thought maybe it was for, you know... for group play only. I don't know. He comfortably occupied his seat again, a straight chair with leathered cushions, and took to engaging himself with a small contraption on the working table, almost directly in front of him, placed a little to his left beside his work. This is so cool. I love this. This is a real life. I'll tell you about it after. The object was comprised of a metal bowl under which was an iron-grated box filled with shavings of wood. Zayed opened that container and lit the wood with his lighter, watching it heat the bowl filled with water. So it looks like this. It's a little bowl kind, and under it there's like a little box full of, you know, shavings of wood so that he can light it, so that it starts heating up. Zayed opened that container and from the water. So and it's filled with water, right? So from the water, which slowly began to warm. What am I not writing? Yeah. Rose two copper tubes that ended in a sphere of the same material. Two opposing L-shaped nozzles projected out of the two ends of the vessel. So as the water began to boil and fill the hollow sphere with steam, which entered it from the copper tubes, the steam found its exit at the two nozzles, and thus it generated like thrusts, and it caused the sphere to spin faster and faster around its axis. This was actually the very, very first piece of engineering. I got the inspiration from a real life object. The very first, well, not really steam engine, but something similar from ancient times. The corner of Zay's mouth curled upwards into a satisfied half smile as he amused himself with this very simple and most ancient engine that really had no other purpose than to entertain, but also to inspire engineers such as himself with ideas. This little machine was a permanent addition in his office and had been a source of some enjoyment for many visitors. So we're in a fantasy setting that's kind of like on the very, very brink of technology and advancement in steam engines and steam. Well, because I don't know if anyone was here at the first chapter, but the city technically works on the basis of geysers, which are, you know, they plummet huge forces of steam, and that's what kind of makes the very basic levels of modern technology in that time. Sort of kind of imagine like a 17th century type world. Zayed's observation of the rotating globe was interrupted by the opening of his door and the entrance of his assistant, a short, half-bald, though still only in his early 30s, man called Matthias Trevor. Though he was a little serious and stiff-mannered, he was never listless and he nonetheless possessed a calm and even pleasant disposition and was well liked by his boss, Zayed. Mathis, or Matt, as called by many, had come to inform Zay that the carriage was ready to take them to their appointed destination. "Are you ready to depart, sir?" "I suppose," sighed Zayed, and put out the tiny fire by closing the grates of the iron box. The sphere still spun wildly before it slowed down and returned to its standstill position of inertia. "I can't get your coat," began Mathis, walking towards a coat rack by the door. "There's a real chill outside. It's a true autumnal day." Zayed contemplated how he would never get accustomed to the colder climate of Tidal as he threw a glance at the window, which framed the multicolored view of trees dressed in their ornaments of crimson, tangerine, amber, sienna, and burnt orange leaves, some falling to the ground to join others that had already abandoned their former abode. "No, no, Matt, please do not trouble yourself. How many times must I tell you I'm quite capable of attending to myself? You're my assistant, not my slave." Mathis hesitantly stopped his arm that had already been reaching for the said coat, doggedly let it stay lingering in the air for a little while before dropping it back to his side. He then readjusted his spectacles, which slid a bit down the ridge of his nose. "Very well, sir." Zayed nodded without another word, grabbed his coat, a long dark grey fabric of dense wool, and left his office joined by his companion. The horse-drawn carriage, conducted by a chauffeur, an employee of the Vehicle Company and Society of Kairen. So this is like this huge society where they're developing all these new vehicles and sort of engines and in Kairen, this imaginary, well, it's a continent, not the whole world. This is just the beginning part of the story. It's like this huge continent built of I think it was 7 districts. I wrote it a few years ago, so I'm really just trying to re-get myself into it. So this is their main kind of society that makes everything work. So it's called the Vehicle Company and Society of Kairen. Very inventive name. Left the bustling area of the city and drove to its distant suburban region located to the east. They arrived after quite a while to their intended objective and got out of the vehicle to conduct a field survey. This visit brought them to a very old and one of the first steam engines, which was rebuilt by the order of Zayed as a means to test it without using the previous energy source of a geyser, because up to this point they only used geysers that they got these huge water steams out of them, and now Zayed figured out a way to kind of try to make energy without geysers, but instead applying fire and water drawn from a coal mine as it was used as a water pump. The huge structure was 9 meters in height and width and was made up of its many materials of cast iron, bricks and chains and wooden rods. Zayed spent the next hour or so walking in and out of the structure, examining the great beam on the top, rocking to and fro, as one side of it lifted water from out of a well, while the other was powered by the huge cylinder filled with steam in which a piston moved up and down thanks to the vacuum created inside the cylinder and the weight of the air pushing it down. So this is the kind of chapter it is, but there's a lot of fun stuff in it too. They exchanged words with the steam engine's workers. Wow. Mathis took notes in his orderly manner. They eventually concluded their interviews and so, done with the survey, quitted the field, made a return journey to the city center, and the Vehicle Company and Society, also called VCS, his main building, Zayed's workplace, an architecture built up of 5 floors outstretched into 4 points shaped into the letter X and claiming a great chunk of land only a few kilometers from the assembly. It was a complex that housed not only the offices of transportation specialists, but also vast workshops where testings of all varieties relating to vehicles could be conducted. Zayed and Mathis, now freshly returned to their base, hurried up some flights of stairs, up to the 4th story, and entered their separate offices. Trevor's, being of a much smaller size, he's the assistant, though still an area big enough to show that its residence status was of some significance. Zay had taken the notes written down by Matt and brought it with him to his own office, where he reviewed them in order to write up his own summary, though he never strove to refined letters. His handwriting flowed very elegantly whenever he took to pen and paper, and his compositions being usually concise and to the point, he almost always wrote in a very imperturbable manner. He now took a pause from his work, leaned his back on the soft surface of his chair, and took to perusing the several pictures hung on the walls painted with the lightest shade of cyan blue. So this main town, Chiron City, where they're living, is like the main colors are like pale blue and white. So it's a very soft kind of pastel type city to imagine. These illustrations depicted the many forms of transport that the established company worked with. There were blueprints of several types of ships and boats, mechanical drawings of cable cars. That's how the city ran, technically, was with cable cars. And the machines that powered them of varying types of hot air balloons, carriages, carts, wheels and levers, roads and pavements, but also technical representations of certain machinery, such as the steam engine that powered the water pump that had just been visited. So this is like a very basic steam engine. It just powers a water pump technically. This was also actually taken from actual real, like historical evolution of steam engines. Zayed returned to his papers and concluded his assignment with a neat finish, then checked the time and decided it to be the best occasion to visit a specific warehouse situated at the northwest tip of the building. "Are you ready to go?" asked Zayed after he opened Matt's office door and peered into the room. His voice was elevated, his words hurried. A deviation from his habitually... Oh, hi! Where are you? Where are you? I don't see that chat. Oh yeah, you got the streak. Nice. No sound. Oh, did I get? Now I don't get your streak. You don't hear me. You don't hear me now. I don't know what to say. My keyboard's here. Here you go. A little hard. Thanks for the... You don't hear me. I need my keyboard. Oh, the things I can say about you. Oh, hi, Onyx Fury. How are you? Thank you for joining. How are you doing? I was in the midst of reading, just got sidetracked a little bit. With another viewer. Good? That's nice. Oh, thank you. I'm just doing a little reading from my... I was playing some Tomb Raider 4. And I'm just unwinding now, reading from my writing. That's cute. That's cute. Thanks for sharing. Really? Nice. Where's my microphone here? Awesome. What do you write? What kind of things do you write? Oh, that's amazing. I'm the type that I'm bad at speech. I but I can sit down and it takes me a while, but like I gradually, slowly kind of just weave myself into a story until it just really opens up, but I can't do it just randomly. Unless I'm alone and really into it, you know? I love it when people can write like that, like just random. People are always like, I've had a community of, you know, writers on some social media, and they're always like, they give a prompt and like write something, and I can't do it quickly. I always need a little time to form it. I love it when people can do that. That's so pretty. Really? Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's so pretty, too. That's really nice. Wait, did I give you an F? Yeah, I did. You're not old? Honestly, I'm in that age range, so I don't want to say my age. I hate saying my age. But that's not old. I think there is no such thing as old. I don't believe in oldness. I know people who are like 80 and they behave as youthful and happy and gay and childish as... I'm sorry if that's I read a lot of old books, if I may have missed but very, very, very content and happy and childish, and it doesn't matter what age you are, I think, as long as... And then you can meet really young people, be like depressed and mean and angry and upset about life as though they've lived thousands of years of horror, even though it's not really.
From the album World's First Piano Concertos by Salvariti from Magnitude.com.
Seriously? No. Oh my gosh. I feel ancient too. Where do they get their history from? I mean, come on, like, we're getting old, but not that old. Oh, you just gotta tell them. They were really cool. You missed out, kids, on a lot, because we were running away from them. And have you played Tomb Raider 4? Because we actually do have a lot of dinosaurs, and I stream some Tomb Raider. I stream a lot of Tomb Raider nowadays. And what was your response? Did you have a response? Well, you know, kids these days, their attitudes are not of the very... It's sad almost sometimes how there's a lot of anger and I think we lived in a nice generation, a happier generation, I don't know, growing up than today. Maybe too much info on the internet for them, I don't know. Not good for... They should be out running and enjoying the sunshine and the grass or whatever. Do you stream anything, like on do you play games? Do you stream your writing? Wait, there's an ad in 3 minutes in case I vanish for 3 minutes, but I'll be back. Just a heads up. So like in 3 minutes. I just do like reading very rarely to unwind. And you don't? Because I once had, when I started writing streaming, there was a kind lady. She came in and she told me how there are very interesting parts of like the writing streams where you can do this and that and whatever, but for now I hardly stream reading from my writing. But well, right now I was actually reading from I started a fantasy technology novel. I don't even know what to call it yet, but a few years ago, not that long ago, I kind of put it aside for a little bit, but I'm thinking of returning to it. And I'm just reading from that right now. I don't have equipment for streaming. I don't have a good PC for playing. Now I've got a good mic, which is something, and I don't care. It's fun. I get to talk and meet with a lot of nice people, and I get to play and share all that. So I enjoy being here. I found so many nice people, and you know, the ones that aren't so nice, like, who cares? Let's ignore them. I like good vibes and places to chill, have fun, really, because that's what I like to be on. enough worries in real life and problems than dealing with people like that here. So yeah, I'm writing this novel. I have a few others that I have been working on for years and years and years, but this is a more current one. It's a little lighter. I have a historical fiction as well that I've been working on since forever. That's more like about the period of the Enlightenment. This one is a little... It's sort of a steampunk novel, I'd call it, with elements of fantasy that kind of isn't fantasy. I don't know. If you want to hear some of it, I'll continue reading. But if you can, in the meantime, write some of those random stuff. Really? What kind of category? The awkward pauses. Ooh, that sounds interesting. Do you have to write one then?
That was track number 1.
You need to write something like that.
First Piano Concertos by Salva Reed from Magnatune.com.
See, it's fun to read. Okay, did you get the ad? Whoops. I dropped my... Did you get the ad now? Because then I won't talk. Zayed returned his papers and concluded his assignment with a neat finish, then checked the time and decided it to be the best occasion to visit a specific warehouse situated at the northwest tip of the building. "Are you ready to go?" asked Zayed after he opened... yeah, it was here. After he opened Matt's office door and peered into the room, his voice was elevated, his words hurried. A deviation from his habitually impassively conducted mellow enunciations. "Absolutely, sir," responded the assistant and got up to join his superior in the hallway. The two traveled to the storage facility, an immense territory to hold massive crates, boxes, and other containers, and mingled with the workers, coming to and fro, carrying this or that, packing and unpacking the various equipments, or loading and unloading vehicles at the opened exit. Aww. There goes the... Oops, sorry. The keyboard fell. Okay, so they're going into this huge storage vicinity. Zay quickened his steps, advancing faster than intended, and met with a worker near the open door. "Hello, Robert," he said with an excited smile, addressing the man standing almost outside beside a large wagon. "I'm here to inquire whether my packages have arrived yet or not." "Oh, Dinan, hello," was the response of Robert, who, as he turned from a box he was about to lift to face Zayed, removed the dirty cap from his head and nodded as a token of recognition. "Well," he continued after a nervous scratch on his forehead, I thought you knew." "Knew?" Knew what? Matt, standing beside Zay, bent his upper body lower so that he could also better hear the short dialogue. Well, that your packages ain't arriving any time soon. Zayed's smile withered. What? But why not? He asked. I certainly ain't the one to ask about that, sir. All I know is that we were told not to be expecting them to be coming until further notice. I got the news straight from my boss, John, who got it from the director himself. Zayed remained standing in his position for a short while after Robert had returned to his duties and before shaking his head and saying, I don't understand. Perhaps there was some mistake, asked Matt. No, Rob never makes mistakes like this. But why haven't I been informed? We were out most of the afternoon. I don't think the decision was made this afternoon, remarked Zay, and swiftly walked out of the storage facility. Only these fast steps of his limbs were now not fueled by felicity, but by vexation. You know full well, Matt, that it takes a few days for the object to be transported here. If the order were cancelled, it would have had to have been done sometime previous to their departure. No, I fear the cancellation was done quite by purpose, and we were left out of the loop. With that, he made an ardent 180 degrees turn. Where are we going? Asked Mathis, exerting his short legs so he could keep up with Zayed's pace. To the director's office. By all the geysers! Exclaimed Matt under his breath, but still audibly. With no more sounds escaping the lips of his boss, he tapped the frame of his glasses to push it upwards again, and followed Zayed to the 5th floor of the vehicle of Kairen Society. They reached a white door upon which large black letters on a sign boldly declared the office to be the daytime inhabitants of Director Walter C. Benton, who was the head of the entire VCS. Zayed graced the door with more of a pound than a knock and entered the office without so much as waiting for a response. At the far end of the room, at quite a distance from the entrance, with a similarly, though more lavishly furnished interior, a group of men were huddled around a table at whose main side sat a strong and stout man in his mid-60s, who had wavy grey hair and bushy eyebrows that were pointing in so many directions they seemed to have a life of their own. As the door opened, the muttering of men pored over engineering drawings and in consultation came to a halt. The man with the bristly eyebrows blatantly ruling over the others in his dominating position at the center of the small crowd, and the only one seated, drew his 2 massive brows as much as it was physically possible even closer together, making an even greater mess of them, slapped his great hand on the table, simultaneously thundering, On what grounds do you enter my office? Zayed, though most intimidated by this outburst, which was more of a chastisement than a question, remained firm in his place with his assistant, who shrunk slightly behind his superior's back. With all respect, Director Sir Benton, I have an urgent question. And you have an appointment to ask this question of me, yes? Rumbled Walter C. Benton. Zayed paused for a moment to draw a deep breath. He continued by bluntly telling him that the order for Phase 4 hasn't arrived. It's been cancelled. Benton tapped the sturdy top of his work table, waited a short while, then ordered everyone to leave the room, and directed Zay and Mathis into the area with the one word, In! The subordinates, with some trepidation, made their way to the director's throne as he leaned back and folded his arms. Well, go on, Dinan. Oh, I got it. Stream. That's so beautiful. That's such a nice writing. You're gonna have to join my streams more often. It's really nice reading these. These are good. They're very good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, go on, Dinan. Director Benton, we were to have started construction for some components for my newest steam engines today, but the order, according to Robert, the warehouse worker, was cancelled until further notice. And then Zayed was constrained to admit to himself that he was not only beginning to lose his cool, but that this reaction was so unexpected he did not know how to continue. First of all, I don't quite understand why I was not informed. We would have gotten around to it, was the abrupt reply. Zayed had no wish to argue with Walter C. Benton, who was seated like an impervious judge in his commodious chair, and whose robust terror inspired fear in anyone who came in contact with him. But his love and passion for his work and the planned production of his revolutionary new machinery spurred him to go on with his dialogue. Secondly, said Zayed, I am in the dark as to when the order will arrive. In due time, Dinan, in due time. So there is no set date? Not for the moment. But I still don't understand, continued Zayed. Confession and curiosity, adding even more courage and driving him to stubbornly ask more questions. Why? As far as I know, it was of utmost importance for the society to develop new modes of transport. Was it not its penultimate goal? Walter waited a moment before releasing a sigh and adding a softness to his voice, thus offering a remarkably rare experience to its listener. It was. It was indeed, and it still is, Dinan, but it has been temporarily halted. I cannot tell you when we will be able to continue the project, but I am convinced it's simply a provisional decision. But why and whose decision? As with most things, it's a matter of money. The government, which would have supported the project with the bulk of its funding, has suspended its decision to grant us the needed capital as it has reallocated the financial support to some other undisclosed scheme. Believe me, added Walter, slowly placing pinches of gravity back into the tone of his voice, I am as disappointed as you are. So there is not even the slightest hint of when we can expect the money? No, the long and short of it is that all we can do for now is wait. If we wait for too long, we can reapply another formal request. Zayed could detect a hint of indignation in the brown eyes of Benton and was ready himself to give way to his own angered thoughts by declaring them in several words of not too flattering remarks intended for the government, but considering he was not even remotely close to being on friendly terms with the director despite his recently presented unconventional lack of almost perilous severity, he decided to hold his tongue and only said, I suppose I'll have to tell my men not to wait for the planned work for today. I'll have to find some other occupation for them. Unless they've been notified? No. Truth be told, I didn't alert you and the others of the changes, as I was still hoping I could convince an official, whom I met this morning, to revert his decision, but I had no luck. Never mind that. Well, Dinan, it's the end of this week, so as there is not much for you to do this day anyway, take the day off, tell the others to do the same, and go home. I don't think that's necessary, Director Benton. No arguments, yelled the superior. Now take that faint-hearted assistant of yours with you and get out of my office. Both Zayed and Mathis muttered words of appreciation and thanks and scrambled out of the office. Zayed made the decision to go home by foot. He lived approximately an hour and a half's walk away from the VCS main building, and though he could have taken a cable car that stopped almost directly near his apartment, or he could have had a carriage from his workplace take him, He felt he was direly in need of exercise in solitude. He felt miserable, and was in very low spirits when he left the building and made his way to one of the main roads of the city center that turned into a steep slope which he climbed with not too much effort, a result of his keeping his physique in rather good condition by going for frequent runs, either in the morning before work or later in the evening before dinner, and by executing other workouts at home. When he reached the top of the ascending hill, he turned onto a leveled road which was decorated on both sides by smaller shops and boutiques of many varieties. I'm soon going to finish, so I just kind of want to finish the chapter. There's just 2 pages left. I don't even know if anyone's around. Okay. That was nice. I like that little free writing. It's fun how people can do that. So Zayed slowed his steps as he neared a certain shop before coming to a complete standstill. He took no notice. He took no notice of the many passers-by going to and fro, some brushing his shoulders as he stood with his thoughts seizing his frame, but remained motionless for the several moments that ensued. The clouds above were a darker hue of grey and mingled with each other in swerving beats before their show ended in exhaled drops of rain softly falling on Zayed's head and shoulders and rousing him from a lesser fight he was struggling with in the encounters with his thoughts. He looked at the sign over the top of the entrance door 2 or 3 times before making the final decision to enter the shop. After making his purchase, he waited a short while inside the small store to wait for the shower to end, and succeeded in reaching his home without getting drenched and without having to deviate from his walking scheme. Zayed lived in a wealthy apartment on the top floor of a 4-story building. His abode had 3 bedrooms and a large living area furnished with luxurious furniture, such as the embroidered sofa of a darker yellow color towards which he was heading, but instead of taking a cozy seat on its cushions, he situated himself beside it by dropping to the floor, where he took up a sitting position and leaned his back against the wall. His bitter ruminations continued to torment him. Being sent home and having the remainder of the day free did not only do nothing to lighten his mood, but served to render him more time to spend with depressing reflections. He did not want to pursue them, but still they continued to remind him of all the arduous work, all the persevering time he had placed in his project to develop the new engines and vehicles, the project he had cherished for so many years, and which could have turned even the tides of history. The project now brought to a sudden halt without any foreseeable date for its continuation. Zayed threw an impatient glance at the large brown bag of paper in his hands, but returned to a few considerations before opening it. Well, I'm going to end it here now because I stayed up for really long. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you for joining. Everyone, I don't know who's everyone. If there's anyone, there is a Meg DeMille. She said she was here, but she's muted, so she doesn't hear me either. But it was nice to have some free poetry. Love that. Oh, you're there still, Dart. Nice. Thank you. Thanks for sticking around. Have a great night.